Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom, welcome back to today's Daf, which is Eruvin Daf Ayin Hey. We're at the Mishnah, which is 10 lines from the top of the Amud. Shtei chatzeros zu lifnei mizu. We have two chatzeros situated one inside the other. So you have one courtyard which is accessing Rosh Hashanah, and one courtyard right behind it, which needs to access. It needs to go through the outer courtyard to get to Rosh Hashanah. Now, our Mishnah is going to discuss a concept called Drisas HaRegel, pedestrian rights, passage rights. So, if one needs to walk through another chutzner to get to Rosh Hashanah, so he has rights to walk through. Do we regard those passage rights as though it's residency, as though he's living there, and he needs to actually join in the Eruv with the members of that chutzner, or perhaps just walking through is negligible. It's not really considered like he's living here, like dira, and therefore an Eruv is not required. We're going to have three shittas. One shitta says yes, Drisas HaRegel equals residency. One shitta says absolutely not. One shitta says it depends. So let's see the Mishnah. Shtei chatzeros zu lifnei mizu. We have two courtyards, one inside the other. So we have a pnivi, which is an interior courtyard, which is going to access the chitzona, the exterior courtyard, to get to Rosh Hashanah. Eruv ha-pnimis. So if the pnimis made their own private eruv, they collected their own bread, which allows them to carry throughout their chutzner. But the chitzona didn't bother making an eruv, so they can't carry amongst themselves. So what is the halacha here? Ha-pnimis materis. The pnimi can carry inside their chutzner, but chitzona asura, and the chitzona cannot carry throughout their chutzner. This is a very straightforward, simple halacha. Continues the Mishnah. Ha-chitzona v'lo ha-pnimis. Let's say the chitzona made their own eruv, which allows them to carry throughout their chutzner, v'lo ha-pnimis, but the inner chutzner neglected to make an eruv. In which case, they can't carry within their domain. And now that they're going to be walking through the chitzona, accessing the chitzona to get to Rosh Hashanah, that's going to create complications. Shtei nasuris. Both chatzeros are now asur. Not only is the pnimis asur to carry within its own territory, but the fact that it's going to be walking through the chitzona, it's going to make the chitzona asur as well. It's going to interfere with the chitzona because they have no eruv with them. Here we're speaking about a case where the people who are coming through the chitzona are asur in their own home territory. That's called regel ha'asura b'mkaima, as Rashi will explain for us. And this complicates things. This makes things asur, affects isur even in the chutzner chitzona where they're merely walking through. Continues the Mishnah. Eruv v'zula atzma v'zula atzma. However, if each chutzner made its own independent eruv, in which case the chutzner apnimis can carry throughout their area. So now, although they're walking through the chutzner chitzona to get to Rosh Hashanah, no harm is being done. Zu muteres v'fnei atzma. Each chutzner can carry on its own, and the fact that there's Drisas HaRegel doesn't harm anything. Let's take a look at Rashi inside. 11 lines from the top. It says Rashi, Masnisan zu lifnei mizu. So you have two chatzeros, pnimis psucha lechitzona, chitzona shesirab. The interior chutzner has access to the exterior chutzner, and the chitzona is open to shesirab, or Drisas HaRegel shel pnimis al chitzona. And the residents of the inside of the inner chutzner access the outer chutzner lotzes Rosh Hashanah to get out to Rosh Hashanah. So what is the halacha? Eruv pnimis la'atzma l'talta b'chatzera. If the pnimis made their own eruv and the chitzona did not, okay, so the pnimis can carry throughout their area, the chitzona can. Straightforward. What if the chitzona made an eruv but not the pnimis? This complicates matters. Shtei nasuris. Now they're both asur. Not only can't the pnimi carry within its own eruv because it has no eruv, but that results in even the chitzona being asur. Their isser, so to speak, extends to the chitzona. Why? It says Rashi, the havi pnimis regel hasur b'mkaima, because the people coming out of the chatzar pnimis are called regel. Regel means somebody who's who's walking through here, ha'asura b'mkaima, which is asur in its own territory. It's originating from a location where it doesn't really have heter total. And since it doesn't really have a convenient place of residency, doesn't really have a place where it can carry, we can't designate the Chatzar Pnimi as their defined territory. Stay there, that's your Iker Makam Shimush, Iker Makam Dira, and just because you're walking out through the Chetzayna, it's merely secondary, it's just negligible use. No. Since you don't really have a proper Makam Shimush, because in your own territory you don't have an Eruv, so you can't really define your Makam Dira as being primarily there, and as a result of that, there's a Svar, as a result of that, your Makam Dira extends throughout everywhere, wherever you're walking, whether it's in there or it's out in the Chatzar Chetzayna. We view it as an extension of your place of residence, and you interfere. It's as though you're living here as well, and unless you make an error with the people outside, you make it asur. So it's a regel ha'asur b'mkaima. The person walking through here is asur in his own place, in his place of origin. So since he doesn't have a proper place because he's asur there, as a result, v'yiseres b'drisas ragla al chitzayna, he will affect iser on the chitzayna as a result of his passing through the chitzayna, because we consider it as though he's living here as well, and he interferes with them because they haven't made an eruv one with the other. However, in the next case of the Mishnah, where both chatzeros properly establish their own independent eruvs, in which case the pnimis can carry in his own home territory because he made an eruv with all the residents of that chatzer. So in this case, no harm is done, although he's walking out of the chitzayna. Zu materes la'atzma, each chatzer can carry on its own, and there's no interference. Kesavri, some add the word rabbanon, kesavri rabbanon. So this shita will hold the regel on materes from kaima. This is a regel, meaning a person who's walking through, who's materes from kaima, who can carry in his own home territory, in his place of origin, in his chatzar pnimi. He has proper access, proper tiltal. It's a convenient usage area. So that becomes designated as, look, that's your primary Makim Shimish. Stay right there. That's your Ikadira. And just because he's walking through the Chatzar Chetzayna, that's merely secondary. That's not your Ikka Makim Dira. Because you have what it be. So we hold regular Materis Makim Eina Iseres doesn't make the Chetzayna Asr. We don't have to reckon with your passage rights. You don't really reside in this Chatzar. You reside inside. Let's get back to the Mishnah. So far we have a Shita which makes this distinction. A regel ha'asura b'mkaima. The person coming through the Chitzayin is asur in his home territory. Doesn't have a proper eruv established inside there. So we can't really define that as being his primary place of use, primary place of residence. His residence extends throughout the entire area and into the Chatzar Chitzayna, and therefore he interferes. However, if it's a regel hamuteres v'mkaima, meaning the person walking through here, through the Chitzayna, is muter in his own place, because he has a proper eruv in his interior chatzar, where he can carry conveniently, then that becomes designated as his place of personal use, his makam dira, and just because he happens to walk through the Chitzayna, that's merely secondary. That doesn't constitute dira, doesn't equal residency. You live over there, not here, and therefore it doesn't interfere. So that's the shita of the Tanakama. Rabbi Akiva, oisar Chitzayna. Rabbi Akiva says, even in this case where it's a regel hamuteres, the Chitzayna will be asur, shadrisas haregel isarta, because pedestrian rights, walk-through rights, the fact that he's passing through the Chitzayna, that equals residency. It's as though he lives there. So regardless of the situation, according to Rabbi Akiva, drisas haregel is tantamount to dira. Therefore, you're interfering. You're part of the you have to be accounted for in this chatzah. So unless you join in the eruv, you interfere. So that's the next shita. We have a third shita. Drisas haregel isarta. Drisas haregel, passageway will never make things asur. Walking through is just secondary use. It's not considered to be dira. And regardless of the situation, whether it's a regel hamuteres b'mkaima or asur b'mkaima, no harm is going to be done. The chitzoyna can always carry without any concern of interference from the bnei apnimis who are walking through. So in summary, we have three shittas. Is drisas a regel tantamount to residency? According to Rabbi Kiva, a resounding yes. According to Chachamim, a resounding no. According to Tanakama, it depends. If it's a regel hamuteres b'mkaima, so he has what it be, then it doesn't make it asur. If it's asur b'mkaima, meaning in his home territory he has no proper eruv, then his residency extends throughout the entire area, and the fact that he has passage rights through chitzayna is considered like dira, and he interferes with them. The Mishnah will continue describing some cases which highlight these this distinction between a regla asura, regla muteres. Says the Mishnah, shachach echad me'chatzayna v'le'iriv. So let's say both chatzeros made an erev independently, and one of the members of the chitzayna forgot to join in his erev. Hapnimis muteres, chatzayna asura. So the interior chatzer can carry, no harm was done. However, the chitzayna is also because they don't have a proper erev. One of them forgot to join. Pretty straightforward halacha. Mina pnimis v'le'iriv. What about if, once again, each chatzar made its own erev independently? One of the members of the chatzar pnimi forgot to join. In this case, we have a person who is a regel hasur b'mkaima, right? Because a person walking through from the pnimi to chitzayna is asur b'mkaima, because inside in his chatzar pnimi he doesn't have a proper erev. In this case, he makes it asur. He interferes on the chitzayna. Shtein asuris. Now both are asur. Not only is the pnimi asur because there isn't a proper erev there, but since one of those members are walking through the chitzayn, he's going to interfere with the chitzayn. Continues the mission. Nosnu Eruvin makam echad. Let's say they decided to join together. Both chatzeros collected bread, put it together, wanted to join with each other, and they placed this joint erev makam echad. The Gemara will tell us this means they put it in the chatzar chitzayna. But somebody forgot to join in the erev. V'shachach echad bei min ha'pnimis bei min ha'chitzayna v'le'erev. Whether it was one of the pnimi members or one of the chitzayna members who forgot to join in the erev, shtein asuris, then they're both asur because it's not a properly established erev. However, let's say these two chatzeros were occupied not by multitudes, by one person. Ruvain in the chatzar pnimi, Shimon in the chatzar chitzayna, in which case, even if Reuven walks through the chitzayna, he is a regel hamuteres b'mkaima, because he's living on his own in the chatzar pnimi. He doesn't need to make an erev with anybody, so no harm is done by his walking through the chatzar chitzayna. There's no need for the chatzeros to join in erev, because although he's walking through the chatzar chitzayna, he is a regel hamuteres b'mkaima, and as a result, there's no harm done. So in summary, we have three shittas regarding drisas regel. According to Rabbi Kiva, drisas regel is tantamount to residency and always interferes. According to Chachamim, never interferes. According to Tanakama, it depends. If it's regel hamuteres b'mkaima, meaning at home he has a proper erev, then that's considered to be his residence, and his walkthrough in the chatzar chitzayna doesn't affect anything. But if it's a regel hasur b'mkaima, meaning at home he doesn't have a proper erev, in which case we can't really designate that as his makim dira. So wherever he is, that's where he resides, and even his drisas regel must be accounted for, and he needs to participate in an erev with the chatzar chitzayna, otherwise he makes things asur. Now the Gemara will bring a shita which will tell us that there are actually only two shitas. Drisas regel always makes asur or never makes asur. And the Gemara will analyze it, and the ultimate conclusion of the Gemara will be actually at the three shitas. But it's going to be a journey until we get there. It says the Gemara, Ki asa Rav Dimi, when Rav Dimi came from Eretz Yisrael, Amar Rav Yanai, he said as follows, the name of Rav Yanai. We only have two shitas. Zu divrei Rabbi Kiva. This concept that drisas regel makes things asur is a shita of Rabbi Kiva. The Amar afilu regel amuteres b'mkaima, even a regel which is muter b'mkaima, oiseres shlei b'mkaima, makes things asur in the chatzar chitzayna. It's as though he's living there, even though he has a place to be. Ava Chacham disagree. They hold drisas regel never has to be accounted for. Kishem sheregel hamuteres ein iseres, just as the regel which is muteres v'mkaima doesn't make things asur. Kach regel ha'asura ein iseres. Likewise, even if it's a regel ha'asura v'mkaima, it won't harm things. This is a regel that's negligible, it doesn't have to be accounted for. So according to this approach, there are two shitas. Either this regel always makes asur, that's Rabbi Akiva, or never makes asur. According to the Chachamim, we don't have that distinction between the case of regel hasur b'mkaima, which will make it asur, regel muteres b'mkaima, which will not make it asur. We don't have that chiluk at all. There's no such shita. The more we'll ask a couple of kashas and conclude that indeed it appears that there are three shitas. Says the Gemara Tanan, we learned in our Mishnah. Ir v'chitzoyna v'lei pnimis. When the chatzor chitzoyna made their own erev, v'lei pnimis, but the inside chatzor didn't make an erev, shtein asuras, then they're both asur. Why? Because the members of the chatzor pnimis who don't have an erev are walking through the chitzoyna. They're considered to be regel ha'asur b'mkaima. That's why they make it asur. But this indicates to us that had the chatzor pnimis established a proper erev, then they wouldn't interfere with the chitzayna because it's considered to be regel hamuteres b'mkaima. So you see this distinction. Mani, whose shita is being reflected here? Ilay Rabbi Akiva, is it Rabbi Akiva? It won't work. My area regel asura. Why specific to a case where the regel is asur b'mkaima, and that's why it asurs? Why does the Mishnah speak about a case where the people coming through the chitzayna are asur because they have no erev in the pnimis, and that's why they make it asur? Is that the reason? According to Rabbi Akiva, it's not so. Afilu regel muteres nami. Even if the person walking through here is a regel muteres, it also would make things asur. So this distinction in our Mishnah can't work with Rabbi Akiva. Elav Rabbanan. Apparently this is Shita's Rabbanan who make that split. So he found this a Shita. He said, well, no, Lo'elam Rabbi Akiva. Indeed, this Mishnah can be followed Rabbi Akiva's Shita. And why does the Mishnah speak about a case of regel ha'asura? Not to imply that it's only there that it's problematic, but if it's regel muteres, it'll be okay. That's not so. Rather, the Mishnah employs a method called loizu afsu. First, we discuss a simple matter, and then we rise to a greater chiddush. V'loizu afsu ktani. Mishnah begins by discussing a regel ha'asura b'mkaima, which will create a concern. But that's a simple halacha. And then the Mishnah proceeds to the next case, where even a regel ha-muteres b'mkaima will be asur, but it's all following Rabbi Akiva's Shita, who holds that in either case it's asur, and again, according to the Chachamim, in either case it will be mutter. Says Gemara Tanan, we have another kash from the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, Ir v'zu la'atzma, v'zu la'atzma. So if each chatzor made its own independent erev, zu muteres v'fnei atzma, v'zu muteres v'fnei atzma. So each chatzor can carry in its own domain. And although the people from the Pnimi are coming through the chitzayna, there's no harm. Why? It says more time of the erva. That's only because the chatzeres made their own erev, meaning the Pnimi made its own erev. So it's a regel hamuteres v'mkaima. That's why there's no harm befalling the chitzayna. Halay erva. But if the Pnimis would not have made its own erev, in which case he's coming from a forbidden location, he's a regel hasur b'mkaima, shtein asuris, then both will be asur. So we see the split between regel muteres and regel asur. V'hai tana damar. Now we have a tana which says, regel muteres, eino iseres. A regel which is muteres, coming from an area which is mutter, an area which has an erev, doesn't cause any harm. Regel hasur, however, iseres. So we see the split. Whose shita is this? Mani. Who's speaking here? Mani ha. Ilay Rabbi Akiva, is it Rabbi Akiva? It won't work, because according to him, afilu regel muteres nami. He holds that in all cases. Drisa said regel makes things asur. Elalav Rabbanan. Apparently, we found Shitas Rabbanan who makes a split. V'oid. Furthermore, you can't say that this is going to be Shitas Rabbi Akiva. It must be Shitas Rabbanan. Why? Because take a look at the next line of the Mishnah with the Sefer Rabbi Akiva. Because the next line, the Mishnah is Rabbi Akiva, Reishalav Rabbi Akiva. Apparently, Rabbi Akiva is coming to disagree. The case before that is not Rabbi Akiva. Apparently, it's Shitas Rabbanan. So you see clearly that there's a Shitas Rabbanan who make that split between regel muteres and regel asura. Says no. Kula Rabbi Akiva. Perhaps the entire portion of this Mishnah is following Shitas Rabbi Akiva. who holds that any type of Drisas Regel makes things asur. We meant to learn the Mishnah as though it's missing some words, and this is what it means to say. Erev v'zula atzma. If each chatzar, pnimi and chitzay, made its own independent erev, zu meteres v'fnei atzma, v'zu meteres v'fnei atzma. Each one can carry on its own, and there's no interference, despite the fact that there is Drisas Regel from the Bnei Pnimis upon the Bnei Chitzayna. How does that work? According to Akiva, Drisas Regel will always make things asur. The answer is by medvar mamur. When is this applied? She'asa daka. There's some sort of separation here. When the Bnei Pnimis erected a small-sized barrier, I should say a small pesach, a small deles, with the two chaseres meet, which indicates that, look, we're going to separate ourselves from you. In this case, even Rabbi Akiva agrees, since you created that symbolic separation, or practical separation, you've separated yourself, and the Drisas Regel no longer will make things asur. Avalei asa daka. But if there was no daka built here, chitzayin asura, the chitzayin becomes asur, even in a case where the people walking through the chitzayin are a regel hamuteres from kaima. Divi Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva oiser sa chitzayin. Rabbi Akiva says the chitzayin is always asur. Mipnei shadrisas a regel eseres, because Drisas Regel makes the chitzayin asur. V'chacham ayim ein Drisas Regel eseres. Never. Drisas Regel never makes things asur. So we conclude that there's no kasha from our Mishnah on Reb Dimi, Amar Rav Yanai's version, that there are only two shitas. What is the Alcha Drisas Regel? Chum say doesn't make things asur in either case. Rabbi Akiva always makes things asur. However, if you made a daka, that's an exception, because you actually split the chatzeres into two. You made that physical separation, even going to Rabbi Akiva. In that case, Drisas Regel doesn't bring about any harm. Says the Gemara, we have actually two more kashas from our Mishnah, which will prove to us that indeed there is a third shita that makes that split between the regel hamuteres b'mkayma and the regel asur b'mkayma. Masiv Rabbi Abai. Mishnah says, Moishe yechidim ain't tzrichen la'arev. The Mishnah concludes with this halacha that if the two chatzeres were occupied by individuals, so you have Ruvain in the pnimi, Shimon in the chitzayna, in which case Ruvain, who is walking through from the pnimi to chitzayna, is a regel hamuteres b'mkayma. He's mutter to use his own chatzir because he has no competition, nobody else living with him. So in this case, his Drisas Regel won't harm the chitzayna. Hashal Rabbim tzrichen la'arev. The diak is that if there would be a Rabbim living in the Pnimi, in this case, since they are Asur b'mkayma, if they have no Erev, so their Drisas Regel will affect the Chitzayin. Will make it Asur. And they have to make an Erev with the Chitzayin. So you see clearly that there's a split between these two different cases. Regel ha'Asur b'mkayma will harm the Chitzayin through its Drisas Regel, whereas regel hamuteres from kaima will not. Alma, apparently we see from here, regel hamuteres from kaima, ain't oiseres. Regel asura, oiseres. Void, Maser Ravina. Ravina says, I have another kash. Shachach echad ben achitzoyne v'le'iriv. The Mishnah says that if one of the bnei chitzoyne forgot to make an erev, so what happens? Haprimis muteres, v'chitzoyne asura. So this was the case where each chatzor made its own independent erev, and one of the Bnei Chitzayna forgot to join in the erev of his personal chatzah. So what is the halacha? The Pnimi is unaffected. He can continue carrying throughout his chatzah, but the Chitzayna is also because they have no proper erev. Okay, simple halacha. The Mishnah continued, Shachach echad ben ha-pnimis v'lo erev. What if the Pnimi didn't establish a proper erev? One of those members forgot to join in the erev. In which case, these people are now asur. Shtein asuris. Not only is the pnimi asur, chitzon as well is asur. Why? Because the traffic coming through the chitzon is a regel hasur b'mkayma. Time of the shachach. That's only because somebody forgot to join in that erev, so the pnimi doesn't have an erev. Halei shachach shtein mutaris. But otherwise, if they establish a proper erev, then not only is the pnimi mutar, but the chitzon as well. Despite the fact that they're walking through and using it, they don't interfere. So what do we see from here? Alma, apparently, we see very clearly we have the split. Regla muteres. The person walking through the chitzin is mutter to use his own area. He has a proper area there. In which case, that's considered to be his makam dira. Eina yiseres. He doesn't interfere with the chitzin. Regla asura. However, if the person walking through the chitzin is usher to use his own place, he doesn't have a proper erev, in which case we consider him all over the place. Yiseres. He will interfere with the chitzin. So we see a shita that makes that split. Says Ma'ela, apparently you're right. Ki asa Ravin, Rav Yana, when Ravin came from Eretz Yisrael, he quoted Rav Yana a little bit differently. That we have three shitas. Gimel, Machlekes Bedavar, we have three shitas. Tanakama Savar, Regla Materes, Eino Yiseres. Tanakama holds, we make that split. The person walking through is mutter in his own home territory, Eino Yiseres. It doesn't make things asa. We don't regard him as a local resident in the chitzah. Regla Asura, Yiseres. The person walking through is usher in his own home territory, then he interferes. He considered to be a partial resident of the chitzah, he interferes. That's the Tanakama. Rabbi Kiva Savar, in all cases, it's usher. Afilu regla muteres, Yiseres. Every drisas regel equals residency. For Rabbana Ba'asroi Savar, that's the third sheet in the Mishnah, right? The Chacham ain't drisas regel Yisrata, on the second wide line. That's the third shita. So that shita will hold kishem sheregel muteres ena iseres, just as a regel muteres from koima doesn't do any harm. Kach regel asura ena iseres, likewise, even a regel asura from koima won't do any harm because risas a regel is negligible, does not have to be accounted for. Some summary regarding risas a regel, we have three shitas. According to Rekiva, risas a regel equals residency. According to Chachamim, it absolutely doesn't. According to Tanakama, it depends. If it's a regular asura b'mkaima, so in his home territory, in his own chatzah, it doesn't have a proper erev. So that can't be designated and defined as his ikim mokim dira. So we just view his residency as though it expands everywhere, wherever he's using is considered to be his mokim dira. Therefore, he interferes with the bnei chitzah. But if it's a regular hamoteres b'mkaima, he has a proper place of residence. He has an erev and he can carry there. That's a convenient usage location. In this case, even though he's walking through the chitzoina, he will not do any harm. Eino Yiseres. Continues the Gemara. 3 lines from the bottom. Nosno Eruvin Makam Echad. Mishnah told us that if they joined together, so the two courtyards made a joint erev, and they placed the erev in Makam Echad in one place, v'shachach Echad, and somebody forgot, b'minat pnimis, whether it was one of the pnimi members or one of the chitzoina, then they're both us. Says around my Makam Echad. What are we referring to? They placed their erev in Makam Echad. Where is this? Amar Rabbi Yehuda Barav, Chitzoina. They placed it in the Chatzar HaChitzoina. Amay Korole Makam Echad. Why is it called with the term Makam Echad? Makam HaMiyuchad L'Shtein, because it's one place which is designated for both people, for both Chatzeres. The Chatzar HaChitzoina serves also as a passageway, a walkthrough for the Chatzar HaPnimis. So when they placed it there, in the Chatzar HaChitzoina, and then somebody forgot, then the whole thing becomes invalidated. However, as we're going to see soon, if they would have placed the erev inside, in the Chatzar HaPnimis, then in some cases, it could be mutter. Let's see the Gemara. Tanya Mihachi, we learned likewise in the Braisa, Nosno Eruvin b'chitzoina. If they place their joint erev in the Chatzar HaChitzoina, v'shachach, echad, beimin ha'chitzoina, u'beimin ha'pnimis v'le'irev. And somebody amongst them, whether he was a fellow of the Chatzar Chitzoina or a member of the Chatzar Pnimis, forgot to join in the erev. Shtein asuris, both Chatzeres are asur, because it wasn't a properly established erev. Now, even if the one who forgot belonged in the Chatzar Pnimis, there's no option, there's no way out, because the Chatzar Chitzoina can't simply tell him, look, we have the erev here, you didn't join properly, stay out of the erev. That won't work, because once the Chatzar Pnimis doesn't have an erev, and they're walking through the Chatzar Chitzoina, what are they? They're a regel hasur b'mkaima. The person walking through is usher to use his own place, and that affects even the chitzin. So in this case, there's no way out, both are usher. However, nosnu eruvim b'pnimis. If they would place their double erev, their joint erev in the Chatzar Pnimis, that's a different story. That depends. V'shachach echad mina pnimis v'le'irev. So if one of the Chatzar Pnimis members didn't join the erev, shtein asuris. In that case, indeed, it doesn't work, and both chatzeres are asur. However, if the person who forgot was one of the chatzer chitzoyne members, shtein asuris. So here as well, they're both asur. They're Rabbi Kiva. So according to Rabbi Kiva, there's no difference. Even in this case, it's asur because the fact is that the Eruv material is situated where? In the chatzer primis. And that provides access to the members of the chatzer chitzon as well. Have access to their food, their Eruv is where they live. So the fact is that the Eruv is bringing them in here, into the chatzer primis. So it doesn't allow the chatzer primis to simply tell them, look, you haven't joined properly with our Eruv. One of you fellows forgot, stay out of our Eruv. You can't do that because the Eruv is bringing them in here. So they're inevitably connected, and since it wasn't properly established, it's not a proper Eruv. No, in this case, there's a way out. Bezu, pnimis moteres, v'chitzin asur. This case is unique, where they place their joint Eruv in the chatzer pnimis. And who forgot? A fellow from the exterior chatzer. In this case, the pnimis is mutter, the chitzon is asur. So although the chitzon doesn't have an Eruv because they didn't all join, but the pnimis can simply turn to them and say, look, we incorporated you into the Eruv for our mutual benefit. You forgot, one of you fellows didn't join, stay out of the Eruv. And they can do that because the Eruv material is where? It's sitting in their chatzer. So they can detach from the chatzer chitzon and carry within their territory. Amalei Rabba bar Chana labai. Maishno, what is the difference that l'Rabbanon the Amri pnimis muteres? Why is it that according to Rabbanon we say the pnimis muter? Why? Mishum da'achta dasha, because they close their door, they lock out the bnei chitzon, umishtamsha, and the pnimi uses its own territory independently. They don't need the chitzon, therefore they can opt out and use their chatzar freely. If that's the shittas Rabbanon, so what about Rabbi Kiva? Why doesn't he agree with this? The Rabbi Kiva Nami, according to him as well, teicha dasha v'tishtamish. Let the pnimi close the door and use its own territory. Armalei Sabai told him, Eruv Margila, because the Eruv material, the bread material of the Eruv, which is located in the Chatzer Pnimi, is drawing them in here. They have access rights here. You can't just lock them out. So then inevitably they're connected. If that's the case, the Rabbanan Navi, Eruv Margila, according to Rabbanan as well, the Eruv is drawing them in here. You can't disconnect them. The answer is the Amrla, because the Bnei Pnimi turns to the Chitza and says, look, why did we join together? Why did we make this Eruv in the first place? For our mutual benefit. L'tkuni shetaftich. I partnered with you for our benefit. Not to our detriment. Here you're making things difficult for us. You didn't properly join with the Eruv. One of you guys forgot. So stay out of our Eruv. They have full rights to turn to them and say that to them. That's not what we had in mind when we made our Eruv. So that's Pshat the Rabbanan. The Chatzer Pnimi turns to the Chitzin and says, look, this is not what we had in mind. If it's to our detriment, stay out of our Eruv. So if that's the case, what about Rekiva? Rekiva Nami Tema. According to him as well, the Chatzer Pnimi should tell the Chatzer Chitzin, guess what? You're only here to benefit us, but not to our detriment. If you're going to make things difficult for us, if one of your members forgot to join, you're just harming things, stay out of the Eruv. So why, according to Rekiva, can't they have the same claim? Says the way, you know why? The Amrla, because the Chitzim will turn to the Pnimi and say, look, you're right, but I'll be mevatel to you my rishus, meaning my access rights that I have into your chatzah through the Eruv, I'll give it up to you. So that's exactly what Rekiva meant to say. He didn't mean that it's going to remain in a state of Isser. When we have the joint Eruv placed in the Chatzer Pnimi, and one of the Bnei Chitzayna forgot to join, says Rabbi Kiva, you know what? It's going to be us until he does bittul. If the Bnei Chitzayna do bittul to Bnei Pnimi, certainly it's mutter. But bittul needs to take place. That's what Rabbi Kiva meant to say. V'Rabbanan. Now why wasn't this option good according to the Chacham? Chacham said, well, they can lock them out, they can exclude them from the Eruv. And the Rabban didn't use the bittul option. You know why? Because they hold bittul wouldn't work. Ein bittul rishus mechatz l'chatz. The bittul option was only provided by the Chachamim for that very same chatzah. Out of necessity, you have to carry here. So if there was no Eruv done, Chacham allowed bittul. But from one chatzah to the other, it's not your primary place of use. Chacham did not allow the bittul option to be used. Therefore, in this case, where we're speaking about two separate chatzeros, bittul wouldn't work. Therefore, Chacham had to present the matter differently. That the Chatzar Pnimi has a right to just shut them out of the Erev. We don't want to resort to bittul. Says the more, actually, this question of bittul mechatz l'chatzar is machlokes amoraim. Between Shmuel, who says you can't, and Rabbi Yochanan says you could. Lema, shall we say, Shmuel of Rabbi Yochanan, the machlokes in Shmuel and Rabbi Yochanan, the plukta, to Rabban and Rabbi Kiva kamiflagi, or having the same machlokes as Rabbi Kiva and Rabban now a sugya, meaning this Shmuel Lamak Rabban. Shmuel said you can't do bittul mechatz l'chatzar, it's following Rabbanan, as we just said. Rabbi Yochanan, who says you could do bittul mechatz l'chatzar, the Amar Rabbi Kiva will follow Rabbi Kiva's shita, who allows bittul mechatz l'chatzar, and that seems to be difficult to connect to machlokes Tanoim, machlokes Amoraim. Says the Gemara, it's actually not so. Amalach Shmuel will tell you as follows: Anod the Amri afilu Rabbi Kiva. My shita conforms even with Rabbi Kiva. I who hold that bittul can't work from one chatzah to the other won't be inconsistent with Rabbi Kiva. You know why? Ad kan lo kam Rabbi Kiva hacha. It's only over here that Rabbi Kiva maintains that you can do bittul from one chatzah to the other. Because we're speaking about a unique case. Elo b'shtei chatzeres zu lifnei mezu. Let's remember we have one chatzah inside the other, the asr hadadi. They affect each other, they interfere with each other. In this case, it's out of necessity. They're answering each other. The bittul was allowed in this case. Aval hasam, however, in that case, meaning the case what Shmuel is referring to, where you had a chatzar on one side of a wall, chatzar on the other, there's no interference, no interaction whatsoever. Mika ashna hadadi. Are they oiser each other? Absolutely not. They don't affect each other. So in that case, the Chacham did not allow this bittul option to be applied. Rabbi Yochanan, and likewise Rabbi Yochanan will say, "Ano da amrei afilu Rabbanan." I, who hold that you can do bittul mechatz l'chatzar, will be in line even with shittas Rabbanan, because truthfully, even Rabbanan hold that you can do bittul mechatz l'chatzar. Ad kan like am Rabbanan hacha. It's only over here the Rabbanan say that don't use the bittul option. Rather, the Pnimi should just turn to the chitz and say, "Look, stay out of the game here. Stay out of our territory." Why? Ella, the Amrla, because the Pnimi tells the chitzin, "Look, I don't want to wait around until you do bittul. Adma vatlasli, until you do bittul, ka'ashlai, you're making me aser. So I don't want to wait around for that. I'm going to bother to wait for your bittul." The Chacham allowed them to simply shut them out of the system. But theoretically speaking, bittul can work mechatz l'chatzar. Aval hasan, however, in the case where you have the chatzar on either side of mechitza, mika asher salah, is one chatzar making the other chatzar also? No. So in that case, this whole issue, this whole concern doesn't apply, and certainly bittul should be applied. So in summary, when the two chatzeros made a joint erev and they placed their erev material in the chatzar chitzayna, then in all cases it's asr. So regardless of who forgot to join, whether it was a member of the chatzar pnimi or the chatzar chitzayna, it's an improperly constructed erev, and it doesn't work. However, in the case where they placed the erev in the chatzar pnimis, then it depends. If the person who forgot was a member of the chatzar pnimi, in this case both are asr, because if the chatzar pnimi doesn't have an erev, then the fact that he's walking through the chitzon, that's considered to be a regal hasur b'm kaima. The person walking through is asur in his own territory. So this affects the chitzon as well, so they're both asur. However, if one of the members of the chatzar chitzon forgot to join, then the chitzon is asur because they don't have an erev. But the pnimis is mutter. According to Rabbi Kiva, through bittul, because the chatzar chitzon will be mevatel their access rights to the pnimis. According to Rabban, even without bittul, we don't want to wait for bittul. Rather, the Pnimi simply tells the chitzon, "Look, this is not what I had in mind. You're ruining my erev. Stay out of my territory. I'm going to close my door. I'm going to use my chatzar on my own." Continues the Gemara. Mishnah tells us if there were individuals living here, Eruvin in the chatzar Pnimi, Shimon the chatzar chitzayna, then there's no concern. Because the concern is only when we have a rabbin living in the chatzar Pnimi, and since they don't have an erev, and they're walking through the chitzon, so it's a regal hasur b'm kaima, and it makes it us. Rabbi Yosef. Here comes a chiddush. Tani Rebbe taught a brayso. Hayu Gimel Asur. If there were 3 Yisraelim living anywhere, in any configuration, any arrangement within these 2 chatzeres, then it's Asur. Let's take a look at Rashi. Off to the left, around 3-4 lines up. Amar Rabbi Yosef Tani Rabbi Im Hayu Gimel. Bein Beza Chatzeres. There were 3 people living throughout these 2 chatzeres. Oisrin, they make each other Asur. And certainly in the case where you have 2 people living inside, of course it makes it Asur. Davi regular Asur, because those 2 people are Asur to carry there. And it's a regular Asur B'm Kaima. It's that simple. But even if you have 2 people living outside, and only 1 person living inside, Asur Asher Irvu Shtein Yachad. It will be Asur until the Chatzer is joined together in an Erev. Why? It says Rashi, Gzeira Mishum Rabban B'Pnimis. We're concerned that if we allow this case to work, people might confuse matters. They'll say, well, look, even when you have a Rabbin, 2 people living outside in the Chatzer Chitzayna, it's okay. And they'll apply that heter even to a case where there's a Rabbin in the Pnimis, which is a totally different equation. Because in that case, the people walking through are Asur B'm Kaima, because they need to have an Erev in the Pnimis, they don't have it. So in that case it certainly is Asur. So perhaps a person will apply the heter to that case as well. So it's a Gzeira, and therefore any type of arrangement, if there are a Rabbin living anywhere in this arrangement, whether in the Pnimi, well, certainly it's Asur, and even in the Chitzayna, and there's no Rabbin in the Pnimis, there's only 1 person living himself in the Pnimi, we require them to make an Erev with each other. Amalu Rabbi. So Rabbi told the people there who heard this statement of Rabbi Yosef, who attributed the halacha to Rebbe, he said it's erroneous. It's an erroneous attribution. Don't listen to him. That he attributed this halacha to Rebbe. It's wrong. I myself was the one who told him this halacha. And it wasn't a Bryce in the name of Rebbe. Actually, it was a Gemara. I told him in the name of Vada Bar Ava. And what is the basis of this halacha? Why, when there are 2 people sitting in the Chatzer Chitzayna, it will make it Asur, even if there's only 1 person in the Pnimis? Since there are a Rabbim involved in this equation, I see a Rabbim here in the Chitzayna, so there's room for confusion. If we allow this, perhaps, even when there's Rabbim Pnimi, a person will be matir, therefore we make a Gzeira. So it wasn't the name of Rabbi, it was actually Rabbi Bar Ava's halacha, and the reason is because of this Rabbim that are present here. Omer Rav Yosef. So Rav Yosef heard this, and Rashi brings Rav Yosef forgot his learning, and when he tried to recall his learning, apparently he made a mistake. And Rav Yosef responded like this: Marid Avram. He exclaimed, the master Avram, meaning Hashem. This was a way of making an exclamation. He said, Rabbim beRebbe Ichlafli. Yeah, indeed. I confused words. So when I tried to recall this halacha that I forgot, I remembered something about Rabbim, Rebbe, and I thought it was a Bryce in the name of Rebbe. That's why I said Tani Rebbe. But in reality, it wasn't Rebbe, it was Rabbim, meaning that was the reason why it's also because there's a Rabbim here and there's room for confusion. So indeed he agreed that it was wrongly attributed to Rebbe. So that's the Shita of Rabbi Ava, that even if there's only Shtayim b'Chitzayna and Yachid b'Pnimi, it's Asur on account of this Gzeira. Shmuel Amar says no, La'olam Mutaris, the Chatzeres HaMutar, Ad sheyu Shnayim b'Pnimis, V'echad b'Chitzayna, unless you have 2 inside, in which case they need to make an Erev, and if they don't, they're a regular Asur B'm Kaimai, and they make it Asur. So unless there's a Shtayim b'Pnimis, V'echad b'Chitzayna, it will be Mutar. He doesn't hold to this Gzeira. Amar B'Lezer, you meant to know that even according to Shmuel, who holds that when you have Yisraelim, we don't apply this Gzeira, but when you have a Goy, it's different. V'nachri. If you have even 1 Goy just living in the Chatzer HaPnimis, and let's say you have 2 Yisrael living in the Chatzer HaChitzayna, it's going to be Asur. V'nachri harihu k'Rabbim. We treat the Nachri living inside as though there's a Rabbin living there, even though there's no Rabbin there. We treat it as such, and we consider it like a place that needs an Erev, and anybody walking out of that Chatzer, since it doesn't have an Erev, it's considered to be a regular Asur B'm Kaima, and it makes it Asur under Bnei Chitzayna. Says the Gemara, even according to Shmuel holds that when we have a similar situation regarding Yisrael, there's no harm. Why is it going different? Maish no Yisrael d'Leyasa. Why? If there's only one Yisrael living in the Chatzar Pnimi, he doesn't make it Asa. Because only one person. He's a regular Hamar Teres Mekayim. He doesn't need an Erev where he lives. The man the Yada, whoever knows that indeed there's only a single resident living in there, who doesn't require Erev, Yada knows. Uman de Yada, whoever doesn't know, who thinks perhaps there are lots of people living in there, no problem. Savar Eruv Erev. That person will say, well, apparently they made an Erev in the Chatzar Pnimis, so they're a regular Hamar Teres Mekayim, and they can carry in the Chatzar Chitzayna as well. So there's no harm done. Either you know the facts, or you're assumed everything's okay. So that's Shmuel's reason, that when you only have a Yachid in the Pnimi, there's no reason to make a Gzera to make Ism. Says, well, if that's the case, by a Goy as well, Nachri Nami, Amrinan. We should say there as well. The Yada, Yada. Whoever knows the true facts, that there's only one Goy living in there, so fine, he knows. The Lo Yada, and whoever is uncertain about the facts of the details of the residency of the Chatzar Pnimis, and he thinks perhaps there are lots of people living in there, okay, Savar, let him think, Agiri Oigar. He assumes that the guy rented his chatzar. They did schirus, and that allows them to carry there. Now it's a regular Hamateres from Kaima. So why are we more concerned by a guy than by a yid? Let's assume everything's fine and dandy. There's no room for gzeres. Everybody will assume that things are perfectly fine. It's a regular Hamateres from Kaima. There's no room for confusion. Says the Gemara, you know why a guy is different? Stam nachar. We presume that a guy, Isa, the Eigar, if indeed he rented out his property to the Yisrael, he makes a public announcement. He lets it be known. He's proud. He's haughty about it. Look, the Israelim needed to rent my property. He makes a big tumult about it. So, in the case where there's no tumult and there's no public knowledge about his schirus, people will erroneously conclude, look, they'll say, let's assume there are lots of people living in the Chatzar Pnimi, and we didn't hear about his schirus. So, apparently, even when they can't carry there, and they're walking out of the Chatzar Chitzayna, there's no harm done. So they'll erroneously conclude that even a regular Hasur B'm Kaima doesn't create concern in the Chatzar Chitzayna. So out of that Chashash and Gzera, even Shmuel would agree that the only time it's mutter, even when you have only one Nachri in the Pnimi, is if they actually joined with him, meaning the people living in the Chatzar Chitzayna made Schiras and joined together, took away the property of the guy, which allows them to carry despite the fact that there are people walking through their chatzar. So in summary, when we have one person living in the Chatzar Pnimi and many in the Chatzar Chitzayna, so if we're speaking about Yisraelim, we have machlekes. According to Rabbi Yehuda, there's a gzera. If we allow this case to work, then perhaps even when there's a Rabbin in the Pnimis, where it's a regular Asur B'm Kaima, people will allow carrying the Chatzar Chitzayna. It will lead to confusion. Therefore, even in this case, he says it is asur unless the two chatzeres join together with an erev. According to Shmuel, it's mutter. We don't apply this gzera. The Gemara concluded, when there's a single nachri living in the chatzar pnimi, all agree it's asur. We're concerned that people think there are lots of people living there, and there's no schiras done, and it's a regular asur b'm kaima who are walking through the chatzar chitzayna, and look, they're carrying the chatzar chitzayna. So this will lead to confusion, a mistake, and therefore it is asur. Continues the Gemara. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel. We know that only a mokim dira, a true place of residence, needs to be accounted for in the erev. So if you have a beis shar, a gatehouse, a guardhouse, it's not a proper place of residence. That place doesn't have to be reckoned with, doesn't have to contribute to the erev chatzeres. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Let's have an interesting case as follows. Yud batam zel lifnei mizeh. You have a chatzar, and you have 10 houses lined up, one behind the other. So from the chatzar, you enter one house, which takes you to the next house, till number 10. And only the first house is actually open to the chatzar. So all of them are gateways, are entranceways to get to the next house. The first one leads to the second to the third, to the fifth, all the way to the 10th. Says the Gemara, all those houses are regarded as a beis shar. They're really entrance rooms, not regarded as proper places of residence, and they don't need to contribute in the erev. Yud batem zel lifnei mizeh. You have 10 houses, one inside the other. Only the pnimi, the one all the way at the end, number 10, noisnei seruah v'dai. He has to contribute to the erev. That's enough, because everything else is merely regarded as a gateway, as an entranceway to that house. So only the pnimi, which is all in the back, the interior one, is considered to be a proper place of residence. Rabbi Yehuda Amar, afilu chitzon, even the outer one has to contribute to the Erev. Says, what do you mean? Chitzon? Bisharu. The outer one near the chutzner, that's certainly a bishar. I'd say walk through to get to the other houses. How can Rabbi Yehuda say it's considered to be a beis dira? Says, well, that's not what he meant. He meant chitzon shel pnimi. He meant the one right next to number 10. The one right before the last one. So you have the chutzner, first house, which leads you to the second house, the third, the fourth. When you get to number 9, Rabbi Yehuda says just as number 10 is an Erev, number 9 as well, because it's just serving as an entranceway to one house. It's a private entranceway. That's considered to be a Malkam Dir. Says the Gemara Maika Miflagi. What's the point of contention between Rabbi Yehuda, who requires an Erev there, and Rabbi Yehuda Mishmo does not? Mar Savar Beishar de Yachid Shmei Beishar. Rabbi Yehuda Mishmo maintains that even a gateway for one house, Beishar de Yachid, is still called a Beishar. It's an entranceway. It's not considered to be a Beis Dira. It doesn't need an Erev. Umar Savar, however, Rabbi Yehuda holds, Lo Shmei Beishar. It's not considered to be like a Beishar because it's only an entranceway to one house. It's not a publicly accessed Beishar, and therefore it's considered to be a Makam Dira and has to contribute to the Erev. So according to Rabbi Yehuda Mishmo, only number 10 is considered to be a proper Beis Dira. According to Rabbi Yehuda, not only number 10, number 9 as well. Continues the Gemara. Omar of Nachman, Omar Rabbi Baravo, Omar Rav. I'll show you a case where you have 3 houses, in which case none of them need to contribute to the Erev. What's the case? Beis Chatzeres, you have 2 courtyards, one on the right, one on the left. The Gimel Batim Benim, with 3 houses situated between these 2 Chatzeres. Now, they like to join together in an Erev. So they collect the bread and they want to place it in one single location, so they all join together as one. Where do they place their Erev? So the right Chatzar walked through the first house and placed their bread in the middle house. The left Chatzar did the same. They walked through the first house and placed their Chatzar in the middle house. So the house which is right next to the Chatzar, which they're walking through, is considered to be a Beishar. It's serving as an entranceway to the middle house. So that's a Beishar. Beishar is Patah from Erev. The middle home is the host of the Erev. And the Erev host doesn't have to contribute. Omar of Nachman, Omar Rabba, Rav Omar Rav. Beis Chatzeres, the Gimel Batim Benem. You have 2 Chatzeres with 3 houses in between. Zeh ba derech zeh. So the Chatz on the right, who walked through the first house, v'nois neruv b'zeh, and places an Erev in the middle house. V'zeh ba derech zeh, and the Chatz to the left did the same. They walked through the house next to their Chatzar. V'nois neruv b'zeh, and placed his Erev in the middle house. Zeh na'aseh beishar lazeh. So the house next to the right Chatzar became a Beishar for the right Chatzar, because it's serving as a walk-through to the middle house. V'zeh na'aseh beishar lazeh. Likewise, the house next to the left Chatzar became a Beishar, because it's serving as an entranceway to the middle house. So those houses are Patah. Emtsoi. Likewise, the middle house, which is hosting the Erev, Havlei Bayis, Shemenichim by Erev, is the house where the Erev is situated. Ve'ein tzorach litin asapas. Doesn't have to contribute bread for the Erev. The point of the Erev is where the food is located, that's where the person resides. Well, this is my house. I don't need to contribute to the Erev. Therefore, all 3 houses are Patah. Okay, time for a brief chazar of today's daf. When one has passage rights through another chatzar, does that equal residency? According to Rakiva, a resounding yes, and he makes things aser. According to Chachamim, absolutely not. According to Tanakama, it depends. If this person walking through is aser b'mkaima, his own home territory doesn't have a proper Erev, in that case, the fact that he's walking through here is regarded as residency. He belongs here as well. His residency extends all over the place and makes things awesome. If it's a regular hamar teres b'mkaima, meaning in his home territory, he has established a proper Erev, which provides a convenient usage area, then that is defined as his Malkam Dira. And the fact that he's walking through here is merely secondary and does not affect the local members of this chatzar. We learned that if the 2 chatzeres join together with an Erev, and they place their Erev in the chatzar chitzoyna, and somebody forgot to participate, then both chatzeres are asur. They place the Erev in the pnimis, and somebody forgot, so it depends. If it was one of the pnimi members that forgot, then it's not a good Erev. If one of the chitzoyn members forgot, then the chatzar chitzoyna doesn't have an Erev, and is asur to carry there. But the chatzar pnimis can carry within their own chatzar. Why? According to Rakiva, because the chatzar chitzoyna will be mevatel their access to the chatzar pnimis, leaving them alone. According to Rabbanan, They simply turned to the Chatzar Chatzan and said, look, we're going to close our door. Stay out of our territory. This is not what we had in mind when we incorporated you into our Erev, and therefore, we're going to separate ourselves and carry within our Chatzar independently. In the case where there's a Yachid in the Chatzar HaPnimis and a Rabbim in the Chitzona, in which case it's technically mutter, are we concerned that perhaps people will apply this heter to a case where there's even a Rabbim in the Pnimis? According to Rav Ada bar Ahava, yes. According to Shmuel, no. And all agree when there's a Nach in the Pnimis, it would be us. A Bishar of a Rabbim is certainly not a Makam Dira, it doesn't require Erev. If it's only servicing a single home, we have a Machlekes.